This is WEFT Champaign, 90.1 FM, community radio for East Central Illinois, streaming live at www.weft.org. The views and opinions expressed here are those of the speakers and do not necessarily represent those of WEFT, its board of directors, associates, station manager, or Prairie Air Incorporated. The following program is pre-recorded and consists of two parts. The first part is a rebroadcast of a program first aired in 2011. The second part was recorded on November 1st, 2015. Welcome to Weekend Heartbeat. I'm Sean David, and this is a new lamp.
New lamp for old. New lamp for old. Remember how Aladdin headed out to get oil for his mother's old dented, tarnished lamp? And in the market he met a magician calling out these words. This strange man was offering to give him a brand new shiny lamp for his old one. That's what I want to offer you, if you'll have it. A new lamp of spiritual guidance. But maybe you already have such a lamp, which still burns brightly. Great. You are still welcome to join us simply to learn who we are. But maybe your lamp of divine guidance has gotten dented and tarnished like Aladdin's. Or perhaps you have no such lamp at all. To you, I offer a new lamp. Hi, my name is Marilyn. Welcome to A New Lamp, a program designed to make you acquainted with the Baha'i religious faith. I hope you will choose to spend the next few minutes with me. Thanks.
And the house and the place and the city and the heart and the mountain and the refuge in the cave and the valley and the land, the sea and the island and the meadow
I'm often asked about where and how Baha'is worship. The where of the question depends on the area in which you are located. I am an isolated believer, so I must travel to other towns where there are Baha'is living. If an area has only a few believers, worship takes place in their homes, just as the early Christians did. Larger communities, such as Peoria, Rockford, Champaign, have Baha'i centers. Keep in mind, the faith is only 168 years old. Actually, we have made a great deal of progress in such a short time. We anticipate a day when each town will have its own house of worship referred to as Mashriq al-Azakar, or dawning place of the mention of God. At this time, there are 7 such temples on 7 continents, and a new one being built in Chile. Some of you may be aware of the one for the North American continent, which is right here in Wilmette, Illinois. It was among the 7 places in Illinois to be voted the 7 Wonders of Illinois a few years ago. All are welcome to enter its doors, whatever your religious faith. It is a place of worship for all. Its doors are open daily. Short devotional programs are held daily, and holy writings from different faiths are read. On Sunday, the choir also sings at the 12:30 program. We do not have a designated day of the week for worship, but have what is referred to as the 19-day feast. Though called a feast, it is more specifically a feast of the Spirit. It is a 3-part program. The first part is the devotional time when Baha'i writings and prayers are read, and music is often incorporated. The second part is administrative, where the community consults on projects, problems, or needs of the Baha'i community. We also join with other faiths in our area for programs or projects whose purposes and values match the Baha'i faiths. The third portion is social time with refreshments and a joyful time of being with fellow Baha'is. We do not have clergy. All members are on an equal footing, and all are expected to teach the faith without attempting to proselytize from other religions. We are to be friends with people of all faiths. Most importantly in our worship is that of private worship. Each one is to study the writings individually in one's own home and read at least a small amount of the writings in the morning and evening. Independent search for truth. In areas with Baha'i centers, some groups take advantage of the culture of Sunday school for teaching children's classes and study groups. The daily things required of us, besides the reading of Holy Writ, are these: to say Allahu Akbar 95 times. This means God is all glorious, along with the phrase Ya Baha'u'llah, thou glory of the all-glorious. These refer to Baha'u'llah. The phrase Allahu Akbar is also used as a greeting among Baha'is. Most of us have prayer beads for the use of saying these. In the Arabic language, each letter of the alphabet has a numerical value. The number 9 equates to Baha, and the symbol of the faith is a 9-pointed star. Between the ages of 15 and 70, obligatory prayers to be said daily. There are 3 choices the individual may decide to use. The long prayer is to be said daily. If the choice is the medium prayer, it is to be said 3 times daily. The third choice is the short prayer to be said at or about noon. Also to be observed during these years is fasting for 19 days before the Baha'i New Year. If possible, each Baha'i should go on pilgrimage to the holy shrines at the Baha'i World Center in Haifa, Israel. I had the wonderful fortune to do so in 2009. I hope you will try to go to see the Baha'i Temple in Wilmette if you have not already. It would be worth your while just to see both the physical and the spiritual beauty of it. Please address any questions or comments to me at anewlamp@yahoo.com.
برد ز دل غمها برات ز دل غم ها دهد به ما قدرت ندای یا ابها الله 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 ابها تو ماه تابانی تو شاه امکانی لسان جان گوید به تو که چون جانی الله ابها 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 یاور ما باش در همه عالم با تو میگوییم ما همه با هم الله ابها 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 ای یاد تو تنها برات ز دل غم ها دهد به ما قدرت ندای یا ابها الله 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 ابها
The first duty prescribed by God for his servants is the recognition of him who is the dayspring of his revelation and the fountain of his law, who representeth the Godhead in both the kingdom of his cause and the world of creation. Baha'u'llah. Thanks so much for being with me this morning. I hope you have found a blessing during these few minutes. If you want to learn more about the Baha'i religion, you can go online to www.bahai.us. To contact me, my email address is anewlamp@yahoo.com. Thanks, and have a great day.
Programming at WEFT is brought to you in part by Minuteman Press. For a few special invitations printed or thousands of full-color flyers, Minuteman Press can get it done on time and in budget. They offer an extensive line of products as well as design services. Due to COVID-19, please contact Minuteman Press for safe ordering, pickup, and delivery options. Phone 217 888-355-0550. They're located at 905 South Neal Street in Champaign or www.champagneprinting.com. The University YMCA is offering programs and services to meet community needs despite the need for social distancing. In response to the unique challenges facing the immigrant community, the New American Welcome Center at the University YMCA has created a special COVID-19 edition of its Immigrant Resource Guide to both guide organizations who work with immigrants and also to equip immigrant allies and advocates who are looking for ways to stay engaged. The Welcome Center has also expanded eligibility for its Immigrant Relief Fund. The Y's ongoing commitment to the leadership, development, community engagement, and academic progress of students has also led to the creation of an emergency fund for Bailey scholars who are experiencing financial hardship as a result of the outbreak due to business closures or relocation. You can access the Y's immigrant resources for COVID document at tinyurl.com/CU immigrant COVID. That is CU immigrant COVID, all one word. The School of Social Work's Learning Community Lab and Uniplace Christian Church have created a resource guide listing several of the community's resources during the COVID crisis. These include food distributions, shelter and housing assistance, restaurants offering free meals, legal aid, immigrants in CU, childcare resources, support groups, clothing, transportation, and internet. You can access it on your browser at go.illinois.edu/community resources. One word, no space. Again, that's go.illinois.edu/community resources.
Good afternoon. We welcome the Baker family. David, Heidi, Devin, and Matthew. Hi, and welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Glad you're here.
Hi, Marilyn.
Hi, Bakers.
Hi,
Sean.
Well, this is fantastic. This makes the fourth time we have been able to welcome members of the Baker clan. As our previous guests, we have had David's mother, Amy Felty, and his siblings, Bill Baker and Zivar Baker-Guyot, and her daughters. We'd be in rough shape, Sean, if the Bakers left our community.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, and of course, we know that you folks are descended from some of the earliest Baha'is in the United States from the early 20th century, including Hand of the Cause of God, Dorothy Baker. What a heritage. What do you think, Devin? What do you think of the heritage you've got?
I don't really think about it that much.
Okay.
Because the most I think back to is the people that are around or have left in the time that I've been alive.
Mm-hmm. It's a long time passing and a different era.
Yeah.
Just something that's nice to know.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we get into our actual conversation, I'd like to hear a little bit about each of you. About your family. Yes, Heidi.
Okay. So a while before I met David, I read the biography of Dorothy Baker called From Copper to Gold. My dad had just convinced me that it was a beautiful story about a really inspiring woman. And at that time in my life, I needed inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And I was deeply touched by the story of her life. I remember when we got towards the end, and of course to her passing.
Yes.
I mean, I bawled as if like a very close friend had passed away on the one hand, and the other aspect of the tears was that I was inspired in a similar way as if a close friend passes, and now we say, I want to bring into my life some of those qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember at what point after meeting David and realizing we would like to get married that I realized, oh, wow, I'm marrying into this woman's family.
Yes.
But I mean, you do see traces of I don't want to say a spiritual heritage. I don't know quite how to put it. People are people, and they will be imperfect. But you do see like that line of strength,
right? That she has
throughout.
passed down.
Yeah.
As we pass down to each of our and all of our families something to our offspring. Devin, I'm sorry. What do you got to say?
I was just wanting to say that I was very good friends with Dorothy's daughter, Louise, my great great aunt.
Oh, okay. And now, where did she live? She didn't live in this area, right?
No, she lived in Texas.
Okay, so you got to visit with her there.
Yeah, and then she moved to I think Bolivia.
So that puts you a little closer to that directness there. You know what you were saying about the book? I felt that same way when I read it, that, you could see what was going to happen. She's on the plane, and we've had these comments, and there's going to be a bad scene ahead, and it's like, you don't want this to happen. That she went down with a plane in the Mediterranean. But yes, it is a very inspiring book. So I can imagine those who actually knew her personally have to have been very inspired. So before we get on to our regular conversation here, how about we hear a little bit about each of you? Like family, job, school, whatever you think you'd like to tell us. Maybe hobbies. Who would like to start? Matthew. Can you tell us a little about Matthew? How old are you, Matthew?
He's being a little shy today.
12.
Why do
Devin?
do it again? Devin,
Yes.
how about, would you like to tell us a little bit about you?
Which specifically would you like to hear about?
Well, kind of anything you'd like to tell us. How old are you, for starts?
I am 15.
You are 15 now. All right. And what kind of things are you interested in?
I'm interested in, well, there are a few simple sports that I like. Soccer, but I'm
Soccer?
really scared of soccer at the same time because I had a traumatic experience when I was really young.
Uh-oh.
And I like baseball because I saw a really cool movie.
Okay.
What movie was that?
The Perfect Game. It's probably one of the best movies of all time.
Well, great. And I think you're very much into a lot of creative things, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that you and Sean often talk about things that you've got on your mind. What kind of things do you guys discuss?
We discuss like stories and video games.
Uh-huh.
And one thing that you were doing recently that I was sort of admiring with the stop animation movies you guys are doing.
Oh yeah.
But yours are really artistic and very sort of avant-garde, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I make claymation videos, or was making claymation videos.
Great. Okay, let's see.
Dad, give David.
All right,
David.
Dad.
Hi.
Did you grow up in this area? I'm trying to remember what your family did.
I grew up in central Illinois. I have various small towns around Illinois. We finally came to Champaign when I was 12-ish. Not quite sure.
Mm-hmm. You're the youngest in the family, is that right?
Yes, I'm the youngest.
Did you get picked on?
Sometimes.
We won't let your sister and brother hear that. What kind of interests do you have? What are your hobbies or general interests?
Nerf, playing with my sons.
I enjoy playing Nerf with my kids out in the cul-de-sac.
Just
Okay,
forget you've got a microphone in front of you. So we're just asking you questions.
I like
what kind of things do you like to do, David?
What do I like to do? I like to role play, and
So okay, you like to role play. Are you kind of a ham?
ham.
Like to act? Acting?
Oh,
Kind of in your blood a little bit?
never.
Acting is so in his blood.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I will tell you a story. It was perhaps the first time that we were in a place where we hung out together, and it was a convention.
Mm-hmm.
And neither of us were really interested in sitting in a convention room in a meeting. And so we happened to both be outside in the hallway with another Baha'i, and we mainly kept our eye on and entertained kids that would stray out of their classes. And one of the main things we did was read books to them, and David nailed every accent with gusto.
Oh,
And
really?
entertained those kids thoroughly.
We'll have to look into having you do some of that around here.
That was role playing.
That was role playing. Yeah, I understand. That's fun. I like to do that too. Well, let's see. We know about Devin likes to do. Now, how about you, Heidi? Tell us about you. Did you go to school?
Well, I did go to school because I really didn't have a choice.
Most of us don't.
But I enjoyed school. I enjoyed school while I was at an experimental magnet school in Evanston called King Lab. Yes. It's a special place, and I hear it's still really, really neat. And it ruined the high school for me, actually.
Really?
Yes.
You were spoiled, kind of. I've wondered that
Yes.
about your nieces who've gone to,
Montessori.
the Montessori schools, too. Well, how was it different? What was unique about it, Heidi?
Well, let's see. What was unique about it? It was in the early 80s, and one thing that they made sure to do, I don't know, I was too little to be aware of this, but memory says that my mom had to just kind of put my name in the pot as a white girl. And then as they were deciding who new they would bring into the school from the pot, they made sure to keep a certain balance of diversity within the school. So that was one thing that was very conscious. Another thing is, I remember the teachers had, again, I mean, I was, how old? Between 9 and 14. So I don't know how accurate this is, but my memory says the teachers had a lot of leeway. They could do a lot of creating their own curriculum as long as they stayed within some general bounds. So we had very interesting classes. And the teachers often became friends.
With
Actually,
the students?
like the authority remained, but the friendships were real.
That's great. That's very interesting. You probably had comparatively small classes, I would guess.
I don't know. I was in a public school until 3rd grade. I mean, well, I guess King Lab's a public school too. But I was in a neighborhood school until 3rd grade. Kindergarten was fine. I disliked the rest of it very much. Then I went to King Lab and loved King Lab for so many reasons. And then I went to high school, and Evanston High School is huge. And so I don't know. Everything about it is big. So I wouldn't really have anything to compare it to.
So, you lived primarily up in the Chicago area growing up? or-
Yeah, we moved there when I was 4, and I didn't move out really permanently out of Chicago until I was 26.
Oh, okay. And tell us about your family.
About my family?
You did have parents, right?
Well, my mom's name is Helen Katz, and she worked at the University of Illinois and the Department of Educational Psychology for 10 years. She was the admissions secretary, which got a new and fancier and more accurate name while she was there. She passed away 3 years ago, and what I found out at her funeral from the many students that came was that she actually did something unique at the university and created a comprehensive or a simple program for the incoming graduate students to be able to follow in order to go through all the steps that they need to go through when they would like to be admitted.
so they
school.
could have some sense of organization then, guidance.
Right. She saw that it was really difficult, that there was a lot of confusion, and so she actually created something new. She actually created a system
Oh,
for them.
okay. Now, you're an only child?
I am.
Mm-mm-mm.
Maybe I'm an only child.
Maybe.
Well, I have 2 different colored eyes. I'm right-handed in writing and partly left-handed in sports. So have you heard of the chimeras? Have you heard this? So there's some conjecture that there's evidence of the 2 sets of DNA,
And
which David thinks is hilarious. You could be your own sister.
and one of Dad's favorite jokes is
Oh, carry on, David.
Yes. Your favorite joke?
Heidi's parents were divorced for a few years, 12 years. And then when they got remarried, it occurred to me that Heidi, as her own twin, was also her own stepsister. So there are actually 4 of her. And so
Oh, I don't think the world can handle it, Heidi.
she's her own twin as well as her own stepsister twin.
So you are asking about her family. She is her own family.
Yes.
So what are your hobbies? I know you've written a cookbook, and I know you've written at least one other book.
Well, back in 2009, or 2008, I got to be friends with another mom, stay-at-home mom, and I was starting to experiment with gluten-free baking at the time, and this woman, my friend Sandra, she loves to bake and loves to experiment, and she's a natural teacher, and so she would come over and we would spend a good 5 to 10 hours coming up with recipes and experimenting and making a grand mess in the kitchen. And we decided to have a booth at the farmer's market. And so she has stayed in the background through all of it, but it was the 2 of us who would stay up all night Friday baking, and then I'd be at the market on Saturday. And so we called it the Baking Bakers, and people asked for a cookbook. And so a couple years later, with the advent of self-publishing, becoming more of a thing, David encouraged me to just get on with it and create that cookbook because, people want it, and here we can do this. And I thought, oh, shoot, he's right. And that sounds like a lot of work and a lot of putting myself out there, daring to write the recipes down and say, here, spend money and follow these recipes,
And hope.
It seemed like a lot of responsibility. And the book is called The Best of Baking Bakers Gluten-Free, Dairy-Free Recipes. And then also I write. So I put out a book of poetry called Love Story, A Walking Meditation.
Oh, nice name.
And that's been well received. I think on Kindle, as far as, the little people on Kindle go. A few months later, I gathered several stories that I'd had on Open Salon and fixed them up and made that into a book called Here Now, Waking Up to My Life. And I chose that title because after my mom passed away, it felt like waking up, almost like waking up out of a dream. And then before my mom got sick, she and I, both writers and very different styles. She had come up with the idea that we should take different aspects of our lives and events that have happened and each write about them and not look at what the other one wrote until we were done, and then just compile several of these and put them into a book. And even when she was sick and in the hospital, just a couple months, maybe even weeks before she died, she was still working to finish up the chapters.
Really?
Yes. And that book is called Tandem Tales, Relative Perspectives.
And it's good. I've read it. Well, we know that you've all grown up as Baha'is in the Baha'i faith, and the Bakers, of course, have a long history. But Heidi, you are second generation, right? How did your family come to be Baha'is?
My mom grew up Jewish on the Christian side of town. And as far as I know, she and her sister were the only Jews in the school. And she caught a lot of grief for that. And one of her high school classes, somebody did a report that they were allowed to make it something fictional or something that really happened.
Mm-hmm.
And she did a report on the Bab and Baha'u'llah. And when it was over, when class was over, my mom came up to her and said, "Hey, are those guys for real?" And that was it. I mean, that was the beginning of her study. And then she just could never handle the idea that God would say, "This is the one and only way for all time, and everyone else, if you don't find this and if you don't believe this, then no good for you." But that's what she got from all sides,
Mm-hmm.
outside of her family and I guess the synagogue. So when this classmate shared the idea that religion has been revealed progressively for all time, and that what's being revealed is really one faith,
Yes.
for one people on one earth, revealed according to the needs of the people that a messenger or prophet came to, but that I guess that God was playing fair. She really liked that.
That's great. Yeah, I think a lot of people find that as an opening to the Baha'i faith, that the idea that somebody says, this is the only religion, well, what about mine? And so you end up feeling like, oh, all these other people are lost. And we don't feel that way. We feel like each time there's been a new messenger come, he has revealed a little more and a little more. And so we keep growing as humanities in our spiritual growth. Okay. Now, you folks have had some really interesting experiences over the past few years. I'd like to find out what you've been up to. You've been kind of living, shall we say, outside the box, not in kind of the usual lifestyle that most folks live in. What can you tell us about it? What have you been doing over these last few years?
When I was younger, we never lived in any one place for more than a year, or around more than a year. I mean,
Okay.
a few months at a time.
Yeah.
The reason for this is because my mom and dad, and not completely me, really love to travel. And as we traveled around, we kept going from Illinois to someplace, then back to Illinois, then to somewhere else, then back to Illinois. And I never remembered the other places except Texas because we kept bouncing around. But I remembered Illinois, and I really liked it because our family lives here.
Basically, this was home when you were ever here long enough for it to be home. Is that right?
Yeah. And then recently we decided to stay here in a house, which was nice because I like houses, for like 6, 7, not 7 years, a while. We stayed here for a long time.
So you feel like you're able to like make friends, kind of get a feeling of stability?
Get a feeling of stability. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're traveling all over the place, it gets kind of hectic.
Well, what kind of things did you see while you were traveling all over the place?
Campgrounds. And there was one time when we were traveling through a desert where there were these huge, towering sand dune mountain things. They looked pretty cool. I don't remember where that was, though.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah, David?
Early in our marriage, Heidi I discovered that Heidi liked to move from place to place. And I think in the first 3 years we were married, we lived in like 7 different buildings. maybe more. And at one point, I told her I hate moving, and I wasn't game to keep doing it, and we needed to pick a solid building to live in.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember exactly how I said it, but I basically said I don't care if you pick a house here or an apartment or buy an RV. We're just not moving out of it for a while. We're not moving again for a while. And her eyes lit up, and she got right on the path to getting an RV. So
It doesn't sound like that's quite what you really meant.
oh no, that was fine with me. I actually did
Oh,
mean.
did you?
I hate moving. And I don't hate moving locations.
Okay.
I love moving locations, but I hate moving all the stuff.
Right.
So in an RV, you no longer have to move all the stuff because you just drive it to the location, put the feet down, and you're all good to go.
There you go.
Am I supposed to address that somehow?
If you want to.
Actually, I was reflecting on the first few places that we lived. The first two were in Galesburg, Illinois, and the first apartment it just had turned out to be a bad choice all the way around. It was in down.
That place was awful.
There are a lot of people I love in Galesburg, but we knew this was not going to work because we were downtown Galesburg. Downtown at the time had several bars right near our apartment, and they all let out at 1 a.m. So what would happen, and we finally figured out the pattern, didn't take very long, is that I would wake up at 1 a.m. with bad dreams, and then I would hear people yelling horrible things at each other down below. I mean, screaming at the top of their. It was regular. So within a couple months, I said, "Look, I grew up in Chicago. We'll move to Chicago, right? Just the two of us, easy peasy, right? We can rent a room or something." And we did. Another friend was renting a room in a house, and it was a little west of where I grew up, and I didn't realize what a difference that would make. So David, who had grown up in small towns and then Champaign-Urbana, which he just thought was enormous.
Champaign was huge.
So now
the high school I went to is larger than the population of the town I was in before here.
by several times, actually.
Yes.
So we moved into this building that turned out to be right behind 94, as in the backyards of the people across the street. If you go over the fences, you could climb up. Well, nobody would, but you could climb up and get onto the highway.
Ooh.
Okay, so 94 was that close. I didn't realize that how nice it was to have grown up on the lake and not dealt with the pollution being so concentrated right there. And so within a couple months, David had like a wound in the back of his throat, and he was coughing up blood, and he was nauseous all the time. There was another guy in the building who one day, this is what clinched our move, I think. One day, David was talking to him about what was going on, feeling nauseous and the coughing and whatever. And the guy said, "Oh, yeah, I went through that for like the first 4 months I was here. And then I got used to it. It's totally fine now. You'll be fine." And David said, "I don't want to do that." And at the same time, by that point, I was a couple months pregnant with Devin. And so David's mom, as moms do because they're sweet and they love their children, said, "Will you two just please come to Champaign-Urbana and get your start here?" So we did, and that meant it was a quick move. We moved to her house, and then a few months later, we got our own place and have basically been based out of here. Even with our nomadic ways, we've been based out of here the last 16 years.
So essentially it's home.
So he says, "Oh, yes, we moved all these times in the beginning," and I must not let that go unanswered.
Your experience with the bars is a story that I'm familiar with. The last place I lived before moving to Champaign was in a very quiet community near the river, lots of woods, wild turkeys, etc., except there was one flaw in the ointment. Down toward the river, there was a bar, and it would be open on weekends. And when you say they let out at 1 o'clock, this quiet little neighborhood just, it was awful. I knew just exactly what you were talking about. And people coming out of bars are not particularly quiet. and they're not particularly well mannered. Oh, golly. Okay. Now, as I recall, somebody had said something about a place you had been in your adventures that has a Baha'i meaning, that is a very special place in the desert.
Yeah. So after my mom passed and I was taking care of the paperwork and the logistics that I needed to take care of, including helping my dad get situated, it was a lot of strain because she'd been sick for several months before that. And David knew he was going to have some work in Arizona that winter, and he suggested that the boys and I just hook up the RV or hook up the camper to the pickup and just go spend the winter in Arizona. And Arizona sounded so far away because we've traveled, but not that far. So we went there in time for something called the Grand Canyon Baha'i Conference, which we just heard was big and nice, and it was. While we were there, I ran into some good friends from back in Evanston that had moved out to Arizona. And they said, "Well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do next? Where are you going to go? Are you just going to stay in the campgrounds?" And I said, "We don't have any plans. We're just here, I guess, just kind of unwinding from a really hectic couple of years." And she said, "Oh, well, Desert Rose Baha'i Institute has four camper spots, and you can just go live there." And I said, wow, okay. And I contacted them, and they said, "Well, everyone who lives here has to put in a certain number of volunteer hours because this is really a school, and so the people who live here are in support of that." And I said, "Well, I'm in no position to commit to anything, to any volunteer hours. I need to sit very quietly and just take things at whatever pace I need to, and this is why." And they were so kind. They said, "Okay, and that's what you can do. And then when you want to volunteer, if there's something that fits, well, you can do that, but you just come and rest and take your time." We did, and it is out in the middle of the desert, but it's been just beautifully landscaped. I mean, it was just such a beautiful retreat. And
So Desert Rose, was that begun by Bill Sears and his wife?
Bill and Marguerite Sears.
Okay. So you folks have been making some really great memories. You're an adventurous family. Well, we are glad that they are now living in the community here, and temporarily at least, more or less, for a while, settled, and an active part of the Baha'i community here.
And they are looking at each other right now.
Trying to figure out who's going to address that.
Okay.
I was going to say, that's why we got an RV, so that could be the pattern.
Okay. We'd like to finish by reading some Baha'i writings and hope that you folks will help us out with this. But once again, we want to thank you so much for being on our program today. And it's been a lot of fun having you here with us. David, Heidi, Devin, Matthew, thank you very much. This was fun. Did you think it was fun?
He's still shy.
Yeah, he's still shy. How about you? Did you enjoy doing this today?
Yeah, I did.
Great. Okay. So, would you be willing to do some readings with us, everybody?
Sure.
Would be happy to.
Great.
A fleeting shadow pass beyond the baser stages of doubt and rise to the exalted heights of certainty. Open the eye of truth that thou mayst behold the veilless beauty and exclaim, hallowed be the Lord, the most excellent of all creators. O fleeting shadow, pass beyond the baser stages of doubt and rise to the exalted heights of certainty. Open the eye of truth that thou mayst behold the veilless beauty and exclaim, hallowed be the Lord, the most excellent of all creators.
God has not created men that they should destroy one another. All races, tribes, sects, and classes share equally in the bounty of their Heavenly Father. The only difference lies in the degree of faithfulness, of obedience to the laws of God. There are some who are as lighted torches. There are others who shine as stars in the sky of humanity. The lovers of mankind, these are the superior men, of whatever nation, creed, or color they may be. For it is they to whom God will say these blessed words, "Well done, my good and faithful servants." Abdu'l-Baha.
My object is none other than the betterment of the world and the tranquility of its peoples. The well-being of mankind, its peace and security, are unattainable unless and until its unity is firmly established. Baha'u'llah.
The fear of God hath ever been the prime factor in the education of his creatures. Well is it with them that have attained thereunto. Verily I say, the fear of God hath ever been a sure defense and a safe stronghold for all the peoples of the world. It is the chief cause of the protection of mankind, and the supreme instrument for its preservation. Baha'u'llah.
So powerful is the light of unity that it can illuminate the whole earth. The one true God, he who knoweth all things, himself testifieth to the truth of these words. This goal excelleth every other goal, and this aspiration is the monarch of all aspirations. Baha'u'llah.
O Son of Man, write all that we have revealed unto thee with the ink of light upon the tablet of thy spirit. Should this not be in thy power, then make thine ink of the essence of thy heart. If this thou canst not do, then write with that crimson ink that hath been shed in my path. Sweeter indeed is this to me than all else, that its light may endure forever. Baha'u'llah.
God leaves not his children comfortless, but when in the darkness of winter overshadows them, then again he sends his messengers, the prophets, with the renewal of the blessed spring. Abdu'l-Baha.
For you, I desire spiritual distinction. That is, you must become eminent and distinguished in morals. In the love of God, you must become distinguished from all else. You must become distinguished for loving humanity, for unity and accord, for love and justice. In brief, you must become distinguished in all the virtues of the human world, for faithfulness and sincerity, for justice and fidelity, for firmness and steadfastness, for philanthropic deeds in service to the human world, for love toward every human being, for unity and accord with all people, for removing prejudices and promoting international peace. Finally, you must become distinguished for heavenly illumination and acquiring the bestowals of God. I desire this distinction for you. Abdu'l-Baha.
There can be no doubt whatever that the peoples of the world, of whatever race or religion, derive their inspiration from one heavenly source and are the subjects of one God. Baha'u'llah. To find out more about Baha'i events taking place in Champaign-Urbana, or if you'd like to listen to previous NewLamp programs, you can go online to www.cu-bahai.org. Or if you would like to learn more about the Baha'i national and international community, go to www.bahai.us. Thank you again for joining us today. I hope you'll join us again next month. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to this week's Weekend Heartbeat on WEFT Champaign 90.1 FM, Community Radio, Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, streaming live at www.weft.org.